Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is a quick review of the Truthear Nova. It comes with this nice cable, good build quality. I got some spin fit tips, and some people recommend using the foam ones. So, yeah, without further ado, I'm going to talk about the bass, mids, and then the treble. And before we do that, I'm going to talk about these foam tips. So, I did try out these foam tips, and it was doing something with the treble in my ears. I don't know if it's because of my ear canal or what, but the treble sounded significantly less in volume compared to the spin fits. So with the spin fits, I just got a more of a treble response, a little bit more clarity. So I'm not really a big fan of foam tips because they definitely altered the sound compared to these types of tips. So I thought these would be different from what I was hearing, but if I'm being honest, it's not any different at all. So I just stick with silicone tips because it just sounds the best to me, and everyone has their preferences, so that's fine. I lost my voice a bit because I was sick, but yeah, anyways, so these are pretty big in size actually. Like, it's not the most comfortable fit, they are slightly chunky. Other than that, these clock in at around 150. So for around 150, I would say that's like a mid-range price point. There's some decent options around here. So starting off with the bass, it sounds very Harmon like, and it lacks a slight bit of a mid bass in my opinion. Drums just don't pop out that much or have that correct bit of weight to them. But other than that, it's fairly Harmon tuned. And so, like, compared to the Moondrop variations and the Manger top, I'm going to be comparing these to those two especially because they have a pretty similar sound signature. So if my memory serves me right, the variations and the top, they had a bouncier sub bass response. These I just don't feel like they're as powerful in the bass as the variations or the Manger top. And those two had a really good bass. But for me, I like the Manger top more in the sub bass. So this is a fraction of the cost. So the bass, it should be good enough for most people. It just has the right amount of sub bass, but not too much. So it's just Harmon tune. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's a little lean, but it is what it is. Pretty decent. And then the upper mid range. So these have a pretty solid upper mid range. Vocals are pretty forward, clean and clear. However, I think the vocals sound a little bit nasally on these. Um, I think it's because of that 1K or 2K region, somewhere around there. So it does have that slight bit of like a nasally mid range, kind of like a Moondrop variations, where on the frequency graph, the upper mid range looks very forward, but on both of those IEMs, in my opinion, the vocals are not as forward as it might seem on the graph because it depends on what tracks you're listening to. Because some tracks, there's not any bass, where it's mostly vocals, where some people might think the mids are too forward, where in reality, this and the variations definitely has that nasally vocal where the placement of it and the way it sounds in my ear, it's just not correct. It is a small nitpick though. Overall, like voices sound very natural, realistic, but it just has this nasal sound to it. Um, and you could test this out with "Kiss It Better" by Rihanna or some pop songs, SZA, The Weeknd. It has this unique nasal sound, which I know what it sounds like because the variations had that similar type of sound. But overall, this IEM is not too far from the variations or the top. Um, I would say you're getting 80% or 90% of the mid-range quality and the bass quality out of this IEM. So that's actually pretty good because you can get an IEM for under 200 that sounds close to a $500 IEM. That's a pretty good accomplishment. So yeah, I would say solid upper mid range, good for female voices. Male voices could use a little bit of power and gain sometimes. Could sound slightly thin, but that's whatever. So the Minger top, on the other hand, does not sound thin. It has better bass and a better treble. So the last thing I want to talk about, and then actually I'll talk a little bit about soundstage imaging. So let's talk about the treble. So this has a really good treble response all the way up to basically human hearing. But so compared to some other IEMs, so this IEM, to me, it felt like it was lacking a little bit of air around like the presence region, maybe around 5 to 6K. Um, the variations in the top, it sounded more airy and it had more breathiness to the vocals, both of those IEMs. With this Truthear, I'm not really getting a good amount of breathiness. So I think the quality of the driver in here is a little cheaper, or it could be the way they structured the drivers around here and the way it interacts with your ears or whatever. But yeah, I would say the treble in the presence region, it's the most disappointing thing about this IEM. Because I was expecting it to have a little more air, especially with the breadth of the vocals. It just sounded a little muted for what I like and what I consider to be reference, I guess, if you're going for a Harman tune set. But overall, not bad at all. The air above 10K is well defined, clear, not muffled or anything. So to sum things up, overall, like the pros, it's a solid Harman tuned IEM that doesn't do much wrong. And then the cons would be it needs a little bit more articulation in the treble. It's just not cutting it. Not above 10K, but around 5 to 6K. It just sounds muted. And then it sounds a little too nasally. The vocals just sound nasally on a lot of the songs I know. And then the bass could be a little more powerful, maybe a few dBs of mid bass. But other than that, this is a solid IEM. If you don't want to buy the Manger top, just buy these. But if you want the better IEM, and it's pretty obvious, just get the Manger top. It's a better IEM, without a doubt. So yeah, overall, I'd give this IEM 9 out of 10. An 8.5 or 9 out of 10. It is one of the better IEMs I've heard in this price bracket, I guess. And then soundstage and imaging are actually amazing on these. Everything's well layered and well separated. There's no blank spots in the soundstage or imaging. Everything's just precise and well defined. So this IEM does a lot of things right. It doesn't do many things wrong. So if they want to make this even better, or I think if they want to get closer to Harman, they have to make sure the bass is a little bit stronger. Maybe 1 dB of mid bass or something, just a little bit. And then Make sure the vocals don't sound nasally. Fix that 1K to 2K region, whatever's causing that. And then add a little bit more articulation in the presence region, around 5, 6, 7K, whatever. And pretty much that's all you have to fix. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10 is my final rating for these. Solid. And I'm pleasantly surprised. So I do recommend this if you want one of the best IEMs under 200. I think it sounds more correct than some of the other offerings I've heard. So it kind of depends what you want. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick video. And have a good one.